Well, okay, everybody, we're going to get started. I'm glad you decided to join us today, and welcome to Four Behind the Scenes Secrets to Great Couples Communication. I'm Mike Dawson, and my wife Susan and I have been working with and teaching couples how to have great relationships for over a couple of decades now. And we've been married for almost 39 years. And I want to know your comments tonight. So if you would just please think about making some comments in the chat. And maybe just to start that all off, you could just let us know how long you've been together or married with your partner. And I just wanted to say one thing about some of the verbiage you'll hear me say tonight. You'll hear me use the word partner, spouse, couple, or marriage, and that's going to be pretty interchangeably. So don't worry about that. If you're not married, that's fine. We're talking to all people in all kinds of relationships, and we're just really glad that you are here tonight. And so we're going to get rolling along here. So we want to let you know that our goal tonight is really to improve your connection with your partner. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. And by the end of our time together, you're going to learn some key skills, attitudes, and tools to change your closeness and how you manage conflict. And yes, we do that by how we communicate with one another. Now, in one 30-minute or 40-minute webinar, there's no way to show you how to completely change your entire relationship. That's probably going to take a little bit longer, of course, but you will feel more confident about your future communication and a whole lot more. Now, I want to encourage you to stay with us until the end because I want to share a special skill and attitude every couple must have and use it in order to understand their partner better. And that will change the way that you think about them and talk with them. And that's called the movie theater attitude. So you don't want to miss that. So stay with us. And at the end, we'll also take some of your questions from the chat. Everyone seems to have questions about their relationship and about communication. And so I also want to try to set you up for the best learning experience possible. So I want to encourage you to minimize and even eliminate any distractions that you might have. You know, turn off the phones and turn down the kids and shut the door and stay focused, right? Give this time to yourself as a gift to learn some new and great tools so you can transform your couple experience in the days to come. So grab a pad and a pen and let's go. Okay, before we start with our four secrets for great communication, I'd really like to start you off with an awesome concept that has a tendency to trip couples up often in their communication. Now, if you're already signed up at mikeandsusandawson.com, you probably have received this document already. But if you haven't, you can go there and sign into our website, go to our blog, and when you sign your email up to receive our blog, then you'll get this work talk and heart talk document. So there's two great skills every couple needs to know about. It's work talk and heart talk. And work talk is very task focused conversation. It's about facts and opinions. It's very solution focused. And it makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. You want to accomplish something in the conversation. But heart talk is very different. Heart talk is, of course, heart focused. It's about feelings and emotions and longings, and it's about caring and understanding your partner. It's about that connection that you have with one another. Um, the important thing to know is that you need to know what kind of conversation, what kind of communication you're having with your partner. Because one is about fixing it and one is about feeling it. And so the question kind of is, do you want me to fix it or do you want me to feel it? So many conversations can sound like work or task type of talk, but it may really be heart talk. So here's an example, and maybe you can relate to this. I have had several couples that have had difficulty during like Thanksgiving and Christmas regarding what in-laws they're going to go see, what family members are going to be there. And when they are making travel and dates and they're planning for those types of things, sometimes it can be a lot more than just making travel plans. It may have a lot to do with the emotions that are tied up into all of that. So when he says, for example, well, I think we should go to my family's house for the holidays. Well, she may be going through all the motions of what it might look like, since maybe she doesn't get along with some of those family members. And when she says, well, how long are you thinking about staying? Well, that might just be the beginning of heart talk. And if he continues with the task oriented conversation, they may very well get crosswise because they're talking two different languages. This is where it can feel like she's not being listened to, not because he isn't listening or doesn't care, but because he's trying to fix it and she's in feeling mode. She's wanting him to connect with her feelings and he's trying to find solutions. They both need to understand what they're really trying to do. And so, what I'm saying is, it's okay to ask, what kind of communication are you both wanting to have? Do you want to fix this or do you want to connect about it? So, here you can leave a comment or a question in the chat that we can try to answer in the Q&A, and you can do that tonight as we go along also. But maybe you can just let us know if you understand the concept of task talk or work talk and heart talk, and you can just give us a thumbs up or a yes or something like that in the chat. Okay, you may be wondering if you're in the right place, if this masterclass is really for you. Well, you're in the right place if you feel you need a mindset shift in how you communicate with one another. You're in the right place if you need the attitudes and actions for change in your communication in order to feel close and connected with one another. And you're in the right place if you want to gain actionable tools and skills to use connective communication. Now, why am I doing this masterclass? Well, because of my own personal experience in my own marriage relationship is one of the reasons that I'm doing this masterclass. Susan and I have been together a long time, and we love working with couples and are passionate about marriage. We have taught and worked with couples in personal, church, and other professional types of settings. I'm also doing this masterclass from my own professional experience. I've worked with many couples, from pre-marriage and newlywed to couples with way more years than I've been married myself. And I've seen couples with difficulties, hurt, and pain, and I've seen the disconnection and conflict. But I've also seen couples begin to have hope, communicate well, and love and connect in wonderful ways. I actually left the corporate world to become a marriage counselor because Susan and I have a great relationship and we believe God wants us to enjoy each other and share a successful and meaningful life together. Now, I want to ask you a question. What if you could create a relationship that you feel great about and great about the direction that it's heading? What is that for you? Can you imagine what it would feel like? What would it be like to talk to your partner without frustration, stress, or arguing? Can you see it? It probably feels pretty good, doesn't it? What I do want to help you with right now is this mindset shift in the way that you communicate. And what I want to give you is a systematic relationship view of how you communicate. This mindset shift will make a big difference in feeling close and connected and in how you manage your conflict going forward. So here's where we're going with our 4 secrets. In the first secret, we want to help you with the real reason couples don't feel good about each other, why they grow apart, and they end up in miserable or failed relationships. And of course, some of the keys to changing that. And in the second secret, we're going to help you understand that how you see your partner and think about them is everything. We want to help you with the right kind of attitudes, ones of connection and love. And in the third secret, we want to help you know what understanding and influencing your partner really means, and to help you overcome negativity and escalation in the difficult conversations and help you clarify your communication. And then in the fourth secret, we want to help you identify patterns or cycles of conflict that almost all couples get into over time, and to also understand the natural reactions to emotional hurt or pain and how to change those cycles. And then we're going to show you how you can take an even further step with your communication. And we're going to give you your bonus skill, the movie theater attitude, for staying with us. And then we're going to end up our time together with a live Q&A. All right, so that's where we're going. And let's just jump into our first secret. Now, this secret helps you by understanding what the real reasons are that couples don't feel good about each other, why they grow apart, and they end up in miserable or failed relationships, and the keys to changing that. The most common reason that couples gave, both men and women, of why their marriages or relationships failed, what they said was there was a gradual growing apart. They didn't feel a sense of closeness anymore. They didn't feel loved and appreciated by their partner. And what those three things really mean is emotional disengagement or emotional disconnection. The problem of emotional disengagement means that there's an absence of positive words, actions, and attitudes towards each other. That means that couples are unresponsive to one another, that they're not available to one another emotionally. They don't seem or act like they're close friends anymore, and they don't try to soothe each other very often. So, what do we do about that? Well, John Gottman says that we need attunement. And John, as a scientist, has done research on couples for over 40 years. And he says that couples need an awareness of their experience with their emotions, with each other's emotions, and the ability to respond to each other's emotions. Now, that means they don't take responsibility for each other's emotions, but they try to understand those emotions. And that means not just cognitively, but emotionally also. And that they need to learn to soothe one another in order to reduce feelings of threat while they're processing difficult kinds of things together. So he says couples need to learn to attune to one another. Attune is an acrostic for a number of different things that we need to try to accomplish with our conversations with each other. And the first one is awareness of the emotion. That means that we are aware that we have emotions and that often emotions are happening when we're having conversations. And then we turn toward the emotion. That means we don't run away from the emotion and we're not afraid of the emotion, but we turn toward it instead. We stay there. And that has to do with the tolerance of the emotional experience, that third item there. Tolerance of the emotional experience means that we can stay in, that we know it's okay to be there, even when the emotions are strong, or even if the emotions seem to be a little bit negative, because that's okay. We have to learn to tolerate those kinds of things. And then understanding the emotion. Now, that's different from just an awareness of the emotion. Understanding the emotion is really understanding what's going on inside your partner. What is the emotion that they're feeling? What are they thinking and feeling? And then the next one is non-defensive listening to the emotion. Sometimes it's hard for us to listen when someone is in an emotional state and not get defensive. But this is actually a key. We have to be able to listen when our other partner is having emotions, so that we can really understand where they're coming from and we can have a good conversation. And then maybe the most important part is the E, empathy toward the emotion. We're actually going to talk a lot more about empathy in a little bit. But is this understandable to you? Do you get the attune method and why that could be very important for us? If it is understandable, then just give me a yes in the chat to let me know that you're with me. Okay. So where is your relationship in terms of closeness and connectedness? Something for you to think about. And if you want to, you can leave us a little comment in the chat. And then we're going to move on to our second attitude or our second secret. All right, the attitudes of connection and love. This secret helps you by evaluating your own attitudes about your partner, understanding your thought processes and your overall perceptions of your partner. How you see them and think about them is everything. And we'll help you with the right kind of attitudes, ones of connection and love. Now, one thing to be very careful about as we talk about the right attitudes is having negative thinking due to ongoing or past painful experiences together. You have to think about your overall patterns and labels you may have a history of that you have attributed to your partner. So we have to be careful about that. The first attitude I want to talk about is the attitude of caring for your spouse and honoring your spouse. Our caring attitude should be to understand, encourage, and assist our spouses when they have desires that need to be met, both in terms of just daily tasks and those types of things, but also in more emotional types of things. We need to make a conscious decision to place our spouse in a position of high value, worth, and importance. We speak their love language, so to speak. We encourage them by using the right words, and we adjust our perception of them as God sees them. Honor is recognition of the importance or value and considering with high regard and admiration and respect towards our partner. And then the attitude of being present. This is recognizing the importance of being like in the moment and present. It's a great attitude to have towards your marriage. And sometimes couples can be in the same room with each other for an hour and like never even interact, almost as if the other person doesn't exist. But we must involve each other. We need to carry on conversations, be emotionally present, and ask our partners if they want to be included in what we're doing. It's be present. And then the attitude of generosity. You get it. Life can be stressful. And in the moment, it can be easy to miscommunicate and to misunderstand our partner. But the attitude of generosity means we extend the most generous interpretation possible to their intentions, their words, and actions. And then the attitude of the person is always more important than the task. Life is busy, and as a result, we easily can get caught up in a bunch of things that can pull us away from our loved ones and hurt them in the process. A good attitude to have is to be mindful that no matter how busy we are, and regardless of how much we're trying to accomplish, these things are never more important than our spouse. We express this to them by pulling ourselves away from work, stopping what we're doing to listen and to what our spouse needs, even at that moment. The attitude of seeing with the heart means that we must see our partners in loving relationships a deeper way in terms of the meaning, the importance, and the emotions of what's really going on with our partner. The heart is where we start, especially when we're having difficulties in our marriages. The attitude of having a completely emotionally safe marriage. We should be able to tell our spouse anything. We should feel safe to discuss what hurts us and what our fears are, and completely trust that they'll handle that information sensitively and be very careful with it. That's safe. And then the attitude that there's a no losers policy. There's no such thing as win-lose in marriage because you're a team. It's either win-win or lose-lose. You express this attitude by constantly looking for ways to find a solution that both of you can feel good about. And then the trustworthy attitude. Trustworthiness means demonstrating through your words and your actions that you recognize and respect the worth and vulnerability of the person you're interacting with. And to the extent that you treat that person as precious and irreplaceable, then you're being trustworthy. And to the extent that you don't, you're not being trustworthy. Trust is not earned once and for all in a marriage. It has to be continually established and maintained. So, what we're saying is that our attitudes mean everything, especially in our marriage. If we're thinking correctly about our partner and seeing them from the right perspective every day, our heart will be more open toward them. It's all about having the right attitude. Are you with me here? Attitude is really, really important for us. Give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat if you're with me about attitudes are very important. And while we're at it, how's your attitude in the relationship? Send us a little feedback in the chat. We talked about 8 different attitudes there. What percent do you regularly have towards your partner? Are your attitudes 100% good? Are they 50%? Are they less? And then we're going to go on to our third secret. All right. This secret helps you by knowing what understanding and influencing your partner really means and being able to put it into everyday real world practice. It will help you to overcome negativity and escalation in difficult conversations, and it'll help you clarify your communication. Difficult topics and differences are best dealt with and managed through cooperation, understanding, persuasion, and influence. When there's a conversation that's potentially volatile, what you really want to do is understand your partner's point of view. So, how do you do that without it getting heated? And keep calm and not lose that attitude of love and kindness towards your partner when it's one of those kinds of topics? Well, it's in your best interest to slow things down. We call that stabilizing your interaction. We reduce harsh words and tones. In other words, we need to think in terms of safety and no threats. And we need to increase positive words and actions. We need to think in an attitude of cooperation. So we need to understand our partner's point of view, but there also needs to be a goal to our conversations. And that goal is understanding. We need to agree that in every interaction, there are 2 valid realities, not just one. One partner sees the issue one way, and the other sees it completely different. You both have a valid reality. But the truth is that each of your valid realities to you is also subjective. So each person has to focus not just on facts, but on perceptions too. The goal of each person is to try to understand your partner's perception with an attitude to find some degree of what you can agree on or what can make sense to you. You look for where you can come together and find commonality. In terms of understanding your partner, it's necessary to convey to them that they've been heard and understood means affectively, not just cognitively. In other words, you let your partner influence not just how you think cognitively, but how you feel also emotionally. And that's the goal, to understand each other. There's a very important meaning here. You understand your partner the best when there's understanding, emotion, meaning, and why something is important for your partner. But in addition to a goal for understanding your partner's point of view, There also needs to be a structure to the dialogue. The structure is that both of you must take turns giving their point of view while the other is listening and working on understanding. It sounds almost childlike, but it's about taking turns and sharing. Many couples don't listen to understand, but are instead thinking about what they're going to say in response, or they're thinking about how they're going to defend themselves or get what they want or need. It's a very human and natural thing to do, but it's not very productive. I see couples often who get into a cycle like this. Let me give you an example. Just the other day, I had a woman who was trying to explain how she felt about a very important and serious meeting she had with her boss. And the husband was very excited and he was interested in what happened. But she could never get across to him what she was really trying to express because he kept interrupting her and giving her ideas of what she should do. She finally just stopped telling the story completely out of her sheer frustration because he was certainly not taking his turn. How about another example? This one of not sharing the time. I knew a woman who had a lot to say. She was very articulate and she was very well versed in a lot of different subjects. And she couldn't understand why her husband would not have a conversation with her and would eventually shut down and walk off. And what she found out, actually from him, was that she talked so fast he couldn't get a word in edgewise and he couldn't process as quickly as her. And so he would just get overwhelmed and frustrated and finally just leave. Does that make sense to you? Sometimes our conversations don't go like we want them to because we don't have a structure that is shared. So if it is your turn to speak, talk about your feelings, not what you think your partner feels or thinks, and not about the what happened, the circumstances, and you don't blame. So you say what you actually do want and need, not what you don't want and what you don't like. You help your partner really understand you effectively and emotionally. You help them know what's important to you and why it's meaningful to you. Now, if it's your time to listen, then you need to postpone your own agenda, your own perspective, your experiences of what you think the solution is. You hear their position, feelings, and needs, um, the ones of your partner. And you validate their position or perspective. You let them know what makes sense to you and what you can agree with. You're interested and you ask good questions. I see couples all the time that don't take turns, don't listen, are thinking about what they're going to say, and interrupt and talk over one another. And I wonder, does that sound familiar in some way? So, here are the key areas to focus on when having difficult conversations and understanding your partner's point of view. It's important to know and define what we're really talking about here. Understanding means that you perceive the intended meaning of the person or their words, or that you interpret or view what they say in a particular way. It's not your perception, it's really theirs. And then meaning. This is listening and interpreting what they intend to communicate, even though it may not be directly expressed. We have to try to listen for what is meant by their words. And compassion. Compassion means to suffer and bear along with someone. It's a conscious decision to be aware of another person's distress and wanting to try to help them with that distress. And then generosity. We kind of mentioned this already earlier, but generosity is when you extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. You make the most generous assumptions about your partner. Now, a really important key, empathy. Brene Brown, in her cartoon video on empathy, says that empathy fuels connection. It's feeling with people. And let me give you a real life example. I had a couple who struggled with pregnancy. They had difficulty getting pregnant, and they had actually even lost a number of babies. And it's an all too common heartbreaking experience that I hear. But a great example of empathy is a husband that said to his wife one time after multiple miscarriages, he said, "I know what it's like, and you're not alone. I'm here with you." Now, do you think he really knew what it was really like for his wife? Well, not exactly, of course. But you know what? He was there with her, he cared for her, and they went through that together. Brene Brown says there's four characteristics in empathy. One is to take the other person's perspective, staying out of judgment, recognizing the emotions that are going on, and communicating that recognition. Sometimes not saying anything and just being there with our partner is all we really need to do. Can you see how mastering empathy with your spouse could change your relationship? If you do, give me a yes. Or if you don't, give me a no. Um, if you get the concept, let me know. Give me a shout out in the chat if you would. Okay, do you have a good goal and structure for your tougher conversations? Do you really try to understand, be generous, and show good empathy when you're talking with your partner, especially when it's a more difficult conversation? Again, leave us a little comment there if you want to, and we'll move on to our fourth secret to great couples communication. Okay, this secret helps you by identifying patterns of conflict or cycles that almost all couples get into over time. To understand our natural reactions to emotional hurt or pain and how to change those cycles. Now, fear is one of the primary motivators for all behaviors. Everyone has typical and often highly developed behaviors that they use to deal with fear. So when a relationship is unsafe, our natural reaction is to protect ourselves by shutting down our heart and our spirit. Now, fear can be many of the feelings or emotions connected to your relationship, like being worried, anxious, stressed, uncomfortable, angry, frustrated. Whatever your word there, that's kind of what we're talking about in terms of fears. So, what we're saying is that when we fear, we become closed, defensive, reactive, disconnected, and conflicted. And repeated disappointments, arguments, and frustrations lead to conflict, negativity, and changes our perspective regarding our relationships. We can also go into fight or flight, which is a natural and quick ability to respond to danger. It's great for survival, it's terrible for intimacy. So, fear can become a cycle we get into as couples. When we have strong feelings like sadness, anger, being disconnected, worried, embarrassed, frustrated, our feelings are hurt, so to speak. So, we want something. We usually want a solution to our hurt and pain, and usually from our partner. And we say to ourselves something like, if only they would do this or not do this, then I could be happy. When our expectations for help, though, are put in the wrong places, the result is fear. We might want acceptance, but we fear we're not good enough. We might want respect, but fear will be looked down on instead. Or maybe we want to control our situation, but fear we're powerless instead. So we react. Consciously or non consciously, we fall into well worn patterns when our fear buttons get pushed. Our emotions and thinking result in behaviors that damage their relationship, which makes our partner hurt, want solutions to their pain, they fear, and they react. And so goes that cycle. So, this fear cycle eventually makes us dependent on other people for our happiness and our fulfillment. And the fear cycle is a predictable pattern that many couples have. It's inherent and it's many times non conscious. So, how about a real live example of that? So a woman is lonely and feels neglected by her husband who's in the midst of hunting season. So she wants some special time and attention from him, and she expects and wants him to not go hunting this weekend. But maybe she doesn't exactly say that and reacts by getting angry at him instead. Well, the husband can't understand where her anger just out of the blue came from. He doesn't get the signal, right? And so he wants peace, but he thinks he's not going to get that. And he can't make her happy. So he reacts by leaving her to, you guessed it, go hunting. Full circle. And what do you thinking happens? What are you thinking happens next? Well, the cycle continues. Or how about this one? A couple in my church came to me last week and told me about one of their common interactions. He has a tendency to be upset about their boys playing too much Xbox, and he sometimes gets pretty loud about it. And when he gets loud, she distances herself because it's too much for her. So when she distances, he pursues her because he wants to be heard and understood. But the more he pursues her, the more she distances. It's one of their patterns or the cycles that they get into. So, what do? We have to break the cycle. We have to be self controlled. We have to create space, that physical and emotional space to think, to calm down, to choose our words and attitudes carefully. We own our own stuff. We're responsible. We don't react, but we respond. And there's many ways to change those damaging cycles. And some of those we've really kind of already talked about today. Um, but there's a lot of ways to do it by cultivating the attitudes of love, by creating emotional safety in the relationship, and by taking personal responsibility for you, your actions, your thoughts, and your feelings, and understanding and influencing your partner by using heart talk to really care for your spouse, and by connecting with your partner emotionally, being tuned in. It could be having good boundaries for yourself in your relationship and taking good care of yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. It could be changed by being responsive and available to your partner, by creating an atmosphere of appreciation and gratitude. So, can you see some cycles you might get into sometimes? Maybe times when you need something from your partner, so you react and then they react too. So let us know in the chat if you understand that and if you're kind of with us on the cycles that couples get into. So I hope you feel like you're getting some great communication concepts and tools for your connection. And I know it can feel like drinking from a fire hose, but so far we've kind of talked about heart talk versus task talk and a type of communication that every couple needs. And then we've talked about four secrets. We've talked about where couples go wrong and how they grow apart. And then we've talked about the attitudes of connection and love. And then understanding our partner's point of view and how we influence them the best way. And then some of the ways that conflict happens and how we get into these damaging cycles. So I have a question for you, and I'd love it if you, type your answer into the comments. How would you like to take the communication points that we've talked about so far and go farther with those? What if you could go farther? Take what we've talked about so far and get more. To not only learn a few great secrets, but to learn a process to recreate the loving and connected relationship that you had in the beginning, and to continue to cultivate your relationship for years to come, to end the cycle of frustration and stress and become a happy, connected couple. Well, of course, you have choices. You could stay where you are and maybe with some great ideas, and maybe that's you learn some of those tonight, even. But maybe that's not all that you really need. What if you had a proven method to communicate without frustration, anger, and stress? What if you could go from feeling stressed, frustrated, and misunderstood to being confident in your ability to communicate and connect as a couple? Well, I'd love for you to go farther and join us for our first digital course, Communicate Without Arguing. This is a process of concepts, tools, and skills that have helped many couples to end the cycles that damage their relationship and communicate and connect for many years. Communicate without arguing not only is going to teach you the steps and tools that you need to recreate a loving, connected relationship that maybe you had in the beginning, but how to continue to cultivate your relationship for years to come. By using these timeless skills, you'll continue to develop into a happy and connected couple. So, communicate without arguing is where you'll learn everything you need so you can go from feeling stressed, frustrated, and misunderstood to confident in your ability to communicate and connect. You'll accomplish making a safe and connected relationship so you can connect with openness and vulnerability. You'll get clarity on stabilizing your interactions so you can feel open to talk about the important and meaningful things that you need to in your relationship. How, you ask? I will give you a proven process to really understand the ins and outs of conflict and show you how to stop hurtful and painful arguments. And you'll also get tools and concepts to actually change how you see and manage differences and rights and wrongs. It sounds like a lot, right? But I'll show you how to build and maintain trust and build the emotional intimacy that every couple wants and needs. Now, this digital course has 5 modules, each with between 3 and 4 video lessons, and each one of those lessons has worksheets and exercises for you to enhance your skills and learning so you have the tools to communicate and connect great. So each week for 5 weeks, you get a module. The first module is stabilize your relationship because we know that the right beginning develops the right ending. The second module is make your relationship safe, connect with openness and vulnerability. The next one is understanding conflict, communicating with a goal. And then the fourth module is to communicate carefully, building trust and influence. And then the fifth module is how to communicate with love, because how you talk is key. Now, so far, that's a value of well over $657. But I have a lot more than just that for this value. You get the 5 modules showing you everything you need to know and understand to turn your relationship into a satisfying, hope-filled, and connected one. There's a step-by-step communication makeover, including how to stop fighting and create an appreciation and gratitude-filled relationship. We're going to teach you the brain and body formula to make sure you understand the way that those two work together during conflict and stress, and how to use this adrenaline and hormone overload to both you and your significant other's advantage, and repairing after conflict, helping each other to stop conflict before damage is done to your relationship, and how to truly change and repair where damage already exists. You get the safe relationship roadmap, which will help you identify and put into place the things that make your marriage comfortable and rock solid, plus a bonus. For 5 weeks, there will be 2 sessions per week of a live Q&A with me inside an active private Facebook group for members only. These are 5 weeks of live Q&A sessions to make sure that you get your questions answered and can move forward with clarity and confidence. You'll get that active Facebook community with fellow students and ambassadors to make sure you don't stay stuck on a particular exercise or tool. This is a space for you to overcome isolation and to fill your motivation tank, so to speak, by connecting with other couples who understand where you're at and are also there to help you cross the finish line. Now, I want you to know that the information that I've put together here is not something that only I can understand as a marriage counselor. I'm no different than you are. And Susan and I do use these same tools and skills that are in this course. And we're even still learning too, even though we've been together for a long, long time. But our marriage is great, and we want you to have the tools to have that great relationship also. And the reason we know you can is because I've taught these very same concepts and skills to hundreds of couples. They're usable, they're practical, and they work. It's not just theory. I've experienced in myself for myself and with many couples that both Susan and I have worked with. And you can do it. But I have even more that I want to give you in this course. You're going to get the 5 modules and the 5 Facebook Live groups, but you'll also get another bonus on safety. This is a steps to safety guide and exercise. It will give you the structure and process to define and implement an emotionally safe relationship. So what you'll get is a personal step-by-step video teaching and a detailed exercise to help you understand how anyone can recognize and take steps to create an emotionally safe relationship and to evaluate the amount of safety you currently have or don't have in your marriage. Now, I'm convinced you can not only learn these concepts and get more than the value that I'm showing you, but that you can make them practical for your marriage. So I want to make it easy for you. We're going to back you with a risk-free 14-day guarantee. And what that means is that you'll actually have the opportunity to watch the videos in modules 1 and 2, download and do the worksheets, and participate in the Communicate Without Arguing private Facebook group to make sure that this course is for you. But I still have more value to add to this. In addition to the 5 modules, the private Facebook group, and the safety guide and exercise, we're adding a special bonus, the falling in and out of love model. This teaching will give you hope. No matter how you feel right now about your most important relationship, there is hope. You'll get a personal step-by-step video diagramming of the physical and emotional evaluation of why people just like you fall in and out of love, along with explanations of the actions that we do and don't do that affect how we feel about our spouse. It's a pathway that shows you how to rebuild the actions and emotions of love within ourselves and our partner, and also to reignite the desires we had when we were first attracted to one another. And really important, how to overcome the doubts in rebuilding love and to press forward to recharge our emotional connection and openness. So here it is. You get all of that together, and all of that together is a total value of $1,218. But you might be saying, okay, wait a minute, Mike, that's a lot. And you know what? Based on what I do every day for couples one-on-one, it is a lot of value. But here's the beauty of an online course. You don't pay $1,218 because it's not one-on-one. You pay only $397 for the entire course and all of the bonuses. And make 2 payments if that works better for you. You can go to this link right here, or it'll also be in the chat for you. And you can sign up either way that you want to. You can make a single payment or you can make 2. But I also have one more special value for you. I have only 10 special VIP experiences available. You receive the full course, all the bonuses, plus an online couple assessment that has proven high reliability and validity and that's not available to the public. I personally will evaluate your assessment, plus have a 30-minute private virtual conference with you to explain your personalized results. And so that's all 5 of the modules and the bonuses and the VIP experience for only $597 or 2 payments of $311. Now, when you go to the link, and I wish you would, just to see the information again out there, you'll see a place where you can choose how to pay. And then when you decide which plan that you want, it will look like this. And then your members area, after you sign up, looks something like this. It has all the modules, video lessons, and worksheets for you to see as they become available. Remember, that's one every week for 5 weeks, starting on March the 1st. You'll always have access to your modules, so you can come in and out of your course curriculum just as you need to and want to, and always use it for reference in the future. So I'd encourage you to go to that link. There's a lot of information there. You can see the whole course layout and all the things that I've talked about so far, and even more. And remember that that's only one payment of $397 or 2 payments of $207. So you can go to the link and you can choose that in any way that you need to and see all the information you really need. You can also sign up for the VIP experience, and you can use that same link for that, or look in the chat for that. So let's think through this again. Why you showed up for this webinar. We talked earlier about why you might be in the right place. And of course, I don't know your personal specific reasons why you showed up today, but from working with couples for years, I can guess that you're in the right place if you need that mindset shift in how you communicate. Communicate without arguing will add to that mind shift by helping you with the attitudes and skills to value your partner differently and to see and treat them with God's viewpoint, to treasure them just as you're treasured by God Himself, to really see and understand your partner's heart. And maybe you're here today because you want to gain those actionable tools and skills for connective communication. Well, communicate without arguing will add skills and tools to build and maintain trust. You'll add to your skills to help you be more emotionally responsive and really speak to and understand your partner. Or if you need the attitudes and actions for change in your communication to feel close and connected, this digital course will help you understand the emotions and the physiological issues that keep you from communicating and loving your partner without the frustrations and the stresses and even anger that can so often get in the way of your close connection with each other. Conflict will no longer lead to fights and hurt and pain. Okay, so you may be saying something like, I don't know if I can do this. And yes, there are a lot of things to learn and implement inside Communicate Without Arguing. And these are lifelong skills that you'll have to practice and reference back to time after time. But here's the thing. As long as you're willing to invest a few hours each week at your own pace and reach out for help when you get stuck, you can absolutely do this. You probably know that there's nothing of value that isn't created without a significant amount of effort, and this is really no exception. But if you're here today, we're pretty sure you exactly want to put that effort in and feel like you've actually learned the life-changing outcomes that a successful relationship can produce. But maybe you're asking, okay, but can I do this solo? Communicate Without Arguing is designed for one or both people in a relationship to benefit from the teaching. Each module and exercise is laid out for one or two people. And those students who have used these tools and techniques have found them to be valuable in both of the scenarios. Or maybe you're saying, you know what, we've been in this mess for a long time. Can we do this? We believe that couples start out doing the best they know how. They treat each other how they've seen others couple act, and that can be good or bad. Not everyone has the opportunity to live within families or observe couples who know how to love each other well. And that being said, anyone who's willing to listen to the videos, do the exercises, and honestly put in the effort can improve their relationship. What it will do is give you the proven skills, tools, and inspiration, even to stop hurting each other, implement a safe environment, and determine why fights happen and how to minimize the harshness and the damage that can be long lasting. Communication skills and techniques that build trust. To be able to talk to your partner with love. You can do this. Take a first step now and go to the link so you can see all of the information there and sign up for the whole course and the bonuses for $397 or the VIP experience for only $597. And if you have any questions about that, you can go to the chat or you can always go to mikeandsusandawson.com and send us a note there also. Okay, you stayed with us to the end, and I want to thank you so much for doing that. And I want to give um, you one of the most important and powerful attitudes or concepts I use with almost every single client. We said that we all have our own valid reality, but that they're subjective, right? Relationships can be very much like a movie. Each of us has our own reality about the events and happenings in our lives. So here's an important concept that couples need to understand to have great relationships. You need the movie theater attitude. It's like you're both living in your own theater and each of you is watching your own movie. Okay, ladies, so you're sitting in your movie theater. It has your preferences, your experiences. It's made up of the meaning that you've made up in your life to your situations and your circumstances. It's based on your family of origin and your past relationships. And of course, that you're a woman. It's your movie. It's not your husband's movie. And men, you're sitting in your movie theater. It's yours. It's not your wife's. It has your characters in it. It's got your soundtrack. It's made up of your perspective and how you view how the world works, the meaning that you've given to how you grew up, and the events and experiences and relationships that you've had in your life. It's from your male perspective. It's your movie. It's not your wife's movie. Great couples learn how to get up out of their own movie theater and go and sit in their partner's movie theater, but not as a movie critic, but as an interested, curious observer. I wonder why she feels that way and does that. I wonder why he does that. We have to get interested and curious about what's really going on inside our partner. We get less critical, less defensive, and we lose the judgment. Great couples cultivate this attitude, the movie theater attitude, in their lives together. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. And so we want to end today with answering a few questions with the time remaining. And so you can go to the chat right now, and just for a few more minutes, we will work through some of these questions for you. We've got just another minute or so. Um, One of the things that I had been asked before from another uh, masterclass that we did earlier this week, someone said that I've read in your blog about the mindset shift before, and I wonder if you could elaborate a little more on that. The mindset shift is really much of what we talked about tonight in the attitudes that we have towards our partner, because the attitudes are the things that a lot of times really get us in trouble because we've had history and we've had events that could be hard or miscommunications. And so we really have to make sure that we have the right attitude about our partner. And I think we also have to see them the right way. We have to see them the way that God sees them and the way that God sees us, as this valuable treasure. And so when we treat them that way, it helps us with that mindset shift. I also think in terms of heart posture, when I think of the mindset shift, heart posture is just that. It's okay, what's the position of your heart towards your partner? And so I think those are three of the things that I think of in terms of um, the mindset shift. And then someone asked the question, why is empathy so difficult for men? Well, that's a pretty general question about men, but I will have to tell you that that probably is more true for men than it is for women. And I really believe that that stems from how we're really created and what's in our DNA. And I think that women are created with that more nurturing, loving, soft kind of a spirit. And I think they have to have that because they're dealing with men and dealing with children so often. And so I think that men are built for work, also how we're created. And so our solution oriented, work oriented type of nature a lot of times makes it to where we don't get in there and feel with other people. But it's a problem in our culture, I think, especially in the US. That we haven't learned how to do that. We haven't been taught that that's important. And I think that's one of the reasons that I do talk about empathy so often, because we have to have empathy in great relationships. And even Christ had empathy and compassion. And if that's our model, then men need to be able to do that. Empathy is something that men can learn. I know that because I've learned that myself. I don't naturally have a lot of that even myself, or I didn't used to anyway. Um, and so another real quick is, well, how do you change an attitude? Um, and some of that could go along with that mindset shift. But I think also if you're really if you've got some attitude issues in your relationship and it's just hard because you've been through some difficult places, I'd say, first of all, you need to pray about your attitude. Um, and I think that's the first and most important step there. But another thing to think about is change attitudes with your partner. In other words, help each other, because you both need to work together on your attitudes. And so if you can have a mindset and an attitude that says, okay, we've got to do this together. We've got to be partners in a team. And the way we change our attitudes is by doing good things, positive things together. That means we put a lot of practice into the expressions of love, the small positive things consistently in our relationships. And we put a lot of positive words and actions into our relationship too. So I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight for our masterclass. I hope that you got some great information and tools that you can put into practical use. And just want to encourage you to go to the link and look at that information there, see the options that might work better for you or best for you. And we would love to hear your feedback in the chat even now, and then even through our website regarding the masterclass and what maybe you could use in our, and would love to hear information on or teaching on in our next masterclass that we do. That'll be coming up sometime in the next couple of months. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a really good evening. Good night.